Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most? And do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right. No extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
All right, welcome to The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Rav Singh, and he is with Spur Equity. He's the managing partner of Spur Equity. He's also a licensed commercial real estate agent and local San Antonio guy here as well. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Keith.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to maybe just start a little bit, and I know we talked a little before the show started, but, how long you've been in the San Antonio area, and then maybe, what led you to real estate, and just a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved from Des Moines, Iowa. I used to live in the Midwest for a long time. Moved to San Antonio almost about 19 years ago. And what brought us here was that, we just wanted a little bigger community. We wanted just to be in a better weather. Not 110 that we're seeing nowadays, but definitely a little better than having snow, which is back in Iowa. We got a lot of snow and stuff. So moved here and was in a different profession. I'm a graphic designer by education. So came here and was a brand manager, was a creative director for a couple of firms, and then got into the real estate field just because I wanted to flip some houses. I wanted to kind of have a hobby, and so I learned about what to do, what to look for in buying houses and flipping houses. And I didn't do anything. Californians were bidding me, paying more than what I was kind of learning, the AVRs, the after repair values for these projects and stuff. So anyway, I didn't do anything, but I got my license out of it. I'm a big believer of foundations. I'm a big believer of education. So went to school, to Sabre, got my license, and I became a real estate agent. And a couple of weeks into my real estate career, by the way, I thought real estate was all about just buying and selling houses. I had no idea commercial real estate existed. I had no idea what anything was in the commercial real estate field. Second week into my being a realtor, I got a call from one of our community members, a guy who had a gas station who said, "Hey, do you sell gas stations?" And I basically just said, "Of course I sell gas stations," and met with him over the weekend, got the listing, then learned what LoopNet was, then learned what CoStar was. Anyway, long story short, traded a lot of specialty assets in the beginning of my career, and then kind of graduated to, kind of learning other things about commercial real estate.
Okay. And you do quite a bit in that commercial real estate field also, even with your Keller Williams brokerage. I know you do some education stuff, all kinds of things. You want to talk just maybe a little bit about that? And before we go there, I was telling Rav before the show that, prior to being W-2, that's where I ended up. I started in residential, but ended up listing quite a few gas stations, and I think we crossed paths years and years ago from that, and I've kind of followed you from afar, not in a creepy way, Rob, but and just an admiration of what you're doing out there in real estate. So, anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have met before, Keith. And so I've been with Keller Williams here in the San Antonio City View office since my career started. I've just been lucky into getting into the commercial aspect of it from that one call that I got that led me my journey on the commercial real estate side. So as I said before, I pretty much I was a general broker, did everything on commercial real estate side. Then a few years ago, I started specializing, got my CCIM designation back in 2012 when I was designated. And then so just been really focused into the commercial real estate aspect. I'm a hotel broker now. I buy and sell hotels for my clients. So it's a very specialty trade. And a few years ago, KW Commercial regrouped and rebranded. We have some specialty groups now within KW Commercial, and I lead and I head the hospitality division of KW Commercial worldwide. And so what that basically means is that I'm in charge of sort of putting education and training and masterminds together behind how to buy and sell hospitality properties from a brokerage standpoint. So we have agents across the nation that I deal with. We partner with them and we basically educate them on how to be specialists in this specific field on the hospitality side. So that's what my role is, and I'm a full-time broker as well as on my Spur Equity side, on my private side, where we syndicate big multifamily projects.
Okay. So on the syndication side, it is mainly multifamily, or you do any of the hospitality stuff on that side?
So primarily when we first started, it was multifamily. We got into that space. And so, matter of fact, I didn't start just being a syndicator. My brother and I, we partnered together, who lives locally in town also. We had our small portfolio of rental properties that we had on our own. We sort of combined those together, sold a few, and then got into and bought a 16-unit apartment complex. This is in 2000, I believe, 18. It's been a while. And so we bought that together and managed it together, learned from it. Hated the process, hated getting these calls because we were managing it ourselves. But it was a concentration that we got, 16 units, and we kind of learned a lot of things from it. Sold that property 1031 into a bigger property, I think 50 plus units. But what we found out was that from an investing angles, economies of scale work in our favor. When we buy bigger properties, we can get the best management, we can get the best vendors, we can get the best loan terms, we can do, everything that we get is more professional. And so we like that process. So during that time period of owning 16 and then 50, just ourselves, not any investors involved, we have a lot of friends and family that I know locally and also across the country. And so they had some money sitting aside and they wanted us to invest and said, hey, figure out a model. Let's figure out how we can invest with you guys because you're doing this starting to do on a larger scale. And that's really where the syndication model started, because we wanted to figure out a way and learn how we can make this a passive journey for our friends, for our family, and for our investors. And that's really where syndication was born for us. So in 2019, we launched Spur Equity, and we started working on acquiring multifamily assets. And it's been a journey since then.
Yeah, for sure. What, as far as what you currently, from the 50 unit, what was the first one you syndicated from a number of units? Was it in San Antonio? Where are you guys buying, right?
Yeah, so great question. We really believe in partnerships. We believe that 1 + 1 = 11, not 2. Right. So meaning that, you are better if you're working together with individuals, with people together, because now you can leverage a lot of different things. So we believe in that. And so we early on got to know some really best people in the syndication world who are syndicating properties at a very high level. So we partnered with them. And our first project that we did was in the Dallas market, in the Edison area. Irving, not Edison, in the Irving area. So we bought a 212 unit apartment complex that we brought our investors into the deal itself. This is in December 2019. We closed on that deal. And since then, 2020 COVID hit, but in 20 time period, we grew quite a bit. We did a lot of deals. So we're in about 15 different deals right now within Spur Equity platform.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of a, COVID threw everybody for a bit of a loop, and so did you see anything from that standpoint? I'm sure probably knowing that you may not have, made the purchase decision, but it sounds like it probably worked itself out. But what did you see with COVID, with having newly acquired a 200 and something plus unit apartment?
Yeah, so what happens is as you grow, of course, different challenges happen. And so one of the things that we saw was when we first actually bought the property, we had a fire in one of the buildings. It was a multi-building apartment complex, and so not having gone through something like that before, that was a big hit. Just emotionally saying, "Hey, what the heck happened?" We just bought this property and this happened. But it was actually a blessing in disguise because, of course, we buy these properties. We're covered from a insurance standpoint, just from a redundancies standpoint, and so we had insurance that kicked in and helped our tenants and also helped us just because we had business insurance that we had purchased. Now we built the building, and it's almost a Class A standard building that we built in an area there. So we were able to lift the rents up. So it actually, hindsight, worked better for us. But there were some of those challenges that happened, and then also other challenges that we faced were just overall when COVID happened, the government, right? I mean, the laws that passed, and so the tenants were staying, and some of the tenants weren't paying. But luckily, we were in a submarket. We were in a building class where a lot of professionals were there, and so it didn't hit us as hard as it hit to some of our other friends who were in the similar position where it was hard for them to survive. Well, PPP came in, so government helped and banks helped and all that happened, but it was a very distressed time for some of these folks. We, on the other hand, looked at that as an opportunity, and so we started looking at more projects and we started partnering with other people, and so we grew quite a bit. We are primarily in the Texas market, so in Dallas and in Houston, our portfolio, and then we also did a few deals in the Phoenix market. So we have 3 apartment complexes in Phoenix that we own and operate, and then South and North Carolina, we have 4 projects over there.
Okay, interesting. All good areas for sure. What? As far as property management, do you guys use a third party for your apartment stuff? And is it the same one or is it market specific?
Yeah, excellent question. So for us, it is market specific because we are in different markets. And so with some of the partners that we have partnered with, they have their own in-house management. So that works perfect because now they not only are dealing on the operational side, but they're also dealing on the management side. And so it works out really good for us. So we have 2 partners that have their own management companies in-house. And everything else that we have, we use third-party management. And so we basically just, in the market that we go, we interview the best third-party management companies that are there, that are working, that align sort of with what we believe in, from delivering to our tenants, uplifting their lifestyle, and so really want to cater to our tenants itself. And so in the Phoenix portfolio and in the Houston portfolio, we have third-party management, and in the Dallas portfolio as well as in the South Carolina and North Carolina portfolio, we have in-house management.
Okay, interesting. So you got a little bit of a blend of both. Between the two, what do you, I mean, I guess on third party, sometimes with third party, it's just, they do a really good job. They got it dialed in. But there's a little less control over, some of the aspects of it. What have you found since you have a variety of both? What's your preference?
Yeah, definitely. I think you kind of gravitate towards putting everything in-house, so then you have systems in place. So we definitely have those in some of the properties, and we like it just because we're able to manage it more effectively, more efficiently, those properties. When we have third-party management, you're relying on third-party management at the end of the day, right? And so you're not on calls, but you're on asset management calls on a weekly basis, monthly basis, making sure that the business plan is going perfect versus having staff that is in-house staff that's there. So definitely, I think I like the aspect of in-house management better than third party. But we love third party management. Third party, we've had challenges, so you just have to kind of deal with those challenges. And once you find a perfect third party management company, like our Phoenix portfolio, all 3 properties are managed by one company. We love the company, and they have our back, we have their back, and so we're looking at a couple of more deals in that market, and they'll probably have that portfolio also.
Okay. And you mentioned the business plan. Let's talk a little bit maybe about that. When you're looking for properties that fit your buy box, what are you looking for that'll allow you to be able to build the value for your investors?
Yeah. So, we basically started in the value add multifamily C plus type space back in the 2019 time period. And so we did a lot of that. We're basically looking for markets where we're going in where population growth is happening, rent growth was still happening in those markets. People were moving in versus moving out, right? 2020 COVID happened, and we saw that Texas, a lot of people, the migration was happening. It was the number one area where people were moving to. So they were leaving the East Coast and moving to bigger cities like, Dallas and Houston and San Antonio and likes. And so we definitely focus on where people are moving. And Phoenix saw the same thing. Carolina saw the same thing. And so from a business standpoint, we basically look where we are looking for properties where they're either undervalued or they are undervalued from a rent perspective, where the tenants were still paying older rents and there's a lot of catch up to do. So one of the big beliefs that we have is that we want to really elevate the lifestyle for our investors meaning our tenants, our constituents, right? And so we go in those properties and we look at it and really kind of understand what the tenants want. And so we'll go in and rehab the properties, from a classic to maybe a premium position, give them the lifestyle, give them the granite countertops and the lighting and the stainless steel package or whatever is needed based on the submarket, lift up the lifestyle of the tenant who's actually there paying for your property. And then so they are happy and they're staying there and they're providing, family entertainment. So that's what we do. So that's where our business plan is. But we do it to the fact where, we want to lift it up. And so we're lifting up our NOI net income so then we can exit on that property in the 3 to 5 year period. So our business plan really calls for underwriting for a 5-year plan. And ultimately, I want to be in a position where if I can refi the property or if I can, get a better debt. And so I'm in the position where, we're returning our investors' capital. Now it's infinite investing for us, where our investors are in that deal for us for more cash flow at that point because their money has already come out. So different levels. We have also kind of gone into different asset classes from a diversification standpoint. We primarily did multifamily, and then we started looking at diversifying and started looking at other asset classes. You had asked me earlier regarding hospitality. I'm a hotel broker. I understand the hotel market. I understand the hotel metrics, the business behind it. And so we invested passively just ourselves into a ground up Hilton development. We really liked it. This year, 2023 is going to be transformational for our company, where we're looking looking at hospitality specialization in terms of just bringing those to our investors. We are launching an industrial fund. We're launching an SDR fund. And we are also looking into, we also did a deal on the self-storage side where we're developing self-storage, 596 units in the North Carolina market. We're just about to get a CFO on it. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think, we started with just looking at our business plan on the multifamily side because that was the time of the need at that point. But then we decided that, look, our investors just need more stability and more support. And so we want to offer them diversification within our company itself. So we started looking at other asset classes at that point.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And probably if you would ask most folks 10 years ago, a lot of the consensus was go all in on one asset class, and a lot of folks in the multifamily. But since the market has changed, and there's still, at least in my mind, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, but there's still a pretty big delta between where the price should be and where the value is. The cap rates are still somewhat compressed, and so I eventually I think that's going to get better. But I think for investors, it's nobody wants to be forced. Not that you're ever going to be forced, but not forced to try to make a decision on an investment in a specific asset class versus having the flexibility to be able to go into different areas, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think it's there's no one thing, one way of investing, right? What may work for you and your investors might not be the same for me. And so what we are always looking at is we're always talking to our investors and seeing where they're at in their journey, right? On the investing journey, what their need is of that time. Because, not that I'm selfish, but if I have an investor who has $100 and if they're only going to invest $20 with me, that's not enough. If they have $100, I want to make sure that I provide them with whatever they need so they can at least invest $50, $60, $80 with me. And they can still do whatever else they want to do. So when we go to our investors, Keith, we basically tell them, look, we are here for you. So let us know, what you are wanting to do, where you're wanting to be. And if we can serve that, if we can provide that for you, we'll do it. And so we kept on hearing time and time again, people saying, look, we love multifamily. We like that space. You guys have done great in that space. But, given the fact where we are, maybe some people are saying we're overbuilt. Some people are saying we're not overbuilt. Who knows? People are reading news, right? These are informed investors. These are informed buyers. And then so we just internally decided, look, we need to also look at diversifying some of these asset classes ourselves. Some of the asset classes, their cap rates are going to be different than others. So if you look at hospitality, what I deal in on the brokerage side day in, day out, well, those cap rates are very different than the cap rates in the multifamily side, right? But the risk profile is also very different. And so some people are able to take a little more risk than the others. But, as a menu, we want to provide that for our investors. Now, some investors love just one asset class and that's it. And more power to them because that's what they believe in. That's what they like. That's how they grew. And that's a philosophy, and that's a good philosophy. For us, it's just changing a bit this year where we started looking into different asset classes based on our investors' need.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. What about leverage? Have you made any changes over the last several years as far as how much debt you're using on potential properties? And I'd really like to hear also kind of what that looks like from a hospitality standpoint. How much loan to value you're taking?
Yeah, it was changing, and the market is changing, right? And so the world is changing, and so therefore our lending needs are changing also. Where last couple of years we have done a lot of multifamily projects where it was variable debt. It was basically debt that was very cheap to find. So everybody did that, and so one of the things that we were lucky enough to kind of foresee or just to understand based on the other work that I've done for my clients also on the brokerage side is the fact that we want to still safeguard what could happen in the future. So in the last 2 years, when we took some of these debts, which were pretty cheap, we were also had the foresight to buy some ceilings just so if the debt goes high in the near future, we had the caps there to protect us. And so, while we've heard a lot of that recently in the news, where some folks had to foreclose on the properties because they weren't able to serve the debt because the debt doubled and tripled for some of our properties. For most of our properties, we bought those cap rates. And so therefore, the debt did go up, but it hit a ceiling after a point or a point and a half. And then after that, insurance kicked in. And so we're able to survive the next 2-3 years when the market is changing. So the debt is going up right now. So any debt that we're looking at right now, we are looking to make sure that it's going to survive the next 2 to 3 year time period. So if it's interest only, and we want to make sure that we have enough liquidity, enough down payments for it. 30-35% is average that we're seeing in the market right now. So we're underwriting those deals. We are also looking at assumptions where there's people who need to get out, and maybe we can go in and buying that assumption on the cheaper debt that was already there. So we're underwriting a lot of different deals. But as a fund manager, Spur Equity now primarily invests with investors, with bigger investors. And so as a fund manager, basically, we are looking at this main sponsor of the deal itself to see how they're underwriting the deal. Because at the end of the day, we're investing with the partner. We're investing with the main sponsor of the deal itself. So if we are looking at a big fund, we want to make sure that we understand what their lending is looking like also. And if it kind of jives with what our thinking is, then we're looking at it and seeing if we want to do like a fund-to-fund project where on a $60 million raise, we can raise $3 to $5 million for that project itself and bring our investors into that deal.
Okay. And just setting up a fund that's a limited partner up underneath it?
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I mean, plus then you're oftentimes, you're not going to get a deal that big that's not going to be, A-class type, a lot better asset all around.
Absolutely. And also from a risk standpoint, from a diversification standpoint, this industrial deal that we're doing, it's going to house between 15 and 20 different industrial properties in one fund. So when my investors putting, whatever money that they're putting in with us, they're actually diversified not from one source of income that's coming in, but they're diversified from 15 to 20 sources of income that's coming in that fund itself. And so I think from a safety standpoint, from a risk standpoint, there's a lot of diversification that happens from that side. Yeah,
for sure. Very interesting. And what about for the hospitality? What are you looking at? I know you mentioned the Hilton project that you did. Where was the Hilton project?
So Hilton project was a ground-up construction deal that was in Cincinnati. It was in Cincinnati, right next to the ball game studio, or stadium, not studio. And so it was just a time there where a sponsor came into us and they wanted some capital. And so we were just limited partners. We didn't syndicate that deal. We wanted to go in as just a limited partner, put our own capital in it, just to see how the sponsor does, what the sponsor does. And since then, the sponsor has been looking into other deals that they want to develop and do. And we like the higher tier flags, the Marriotts and the Hiltons and the Hyatts, those type of flags. We believe that, what I've seen is in the post-COVID, the hospitality business took a dive, right? People weren't moving, the world wasn't moving. And so hospitality business was pretty much in trouble at that point. A lot of the operators survived. So what happened is post-COVID, people got sick of just sitting at home, right? And so all of a sudden this rush of energy came in where people wanted to move and take vacations, and the world had to move again, and the business still had to happen. So a lot of leisure folks went out and took vacations, but they went on roadside trips more than flying, just because flying as an industry was also down during COVID. Right. But what happened is that now all of a sudden people want to move, and businesses changed. People started doing what we're doing right now, which is interviewing through Zoom and through other technologies that are out there. Well, business started doing the same thing, and so a lot of as you can see, a lot of the office as an asset class started downsizing. So office is in trouble even still today. But what happened is that some of the older properties that were office properties or that were hospitality properties went offline because some of these investors came and they bought those properties to convert them into multifamily, because multifamily had shot up. And so multifamily was really expensive to buy. The cap rates went down. And so people started buying these older properties and doing conversions. And so a lot of the conversions happened into it. So basically what I'm saying is that a lot of the rooms that were hospitality rooms selling on a nightly basis, all of a sudden they went offline because they weren't available as hotel properties. So a lot of new development started happening. And so it takes time for new development to catch up. So that wave is going on right now. And business is starting to travel a little bit more again. And so as business starts traveling, as leisure is already traveling, I think what we saw is an upsurge in the hospitality properties. The occupancies went up, the ADRs went up, average daily rates. And so people are making more money and people are having more people come in those rooms. So as an average, if you were at a 65% occupancies in hospitality, it was considered pretty decent. San Antonio has about 65% overall occupancy. But in some of these submarkets, the occupancies went up to 80, 85, 90%. And so hospitality has been doing great. As an asset class, it's been doing great. Even during this time period right now, we have buyers who are looking to buy these properties are wanting to get into hospitality to catch on that wave right now. And so that's where we are at. The data is kind of hard to find right now because hospitality is considered a very specialty asset class. And being in specialty asset class, first of all, not every bank's lending. And even some of those banks that were lending are kind of pulling back and saying, look, we don't know what's happening in the market. We're going to wait and see. That's the mandate that they're getting from the higher ups. But as a hospitality vertical, I think the business is there. The business is doing great. So it's finding the right lender for that property. SBA is still active, and all of those still active, but not everybody qualifies for that because if they use their limit, they're done with it. So at the end of the day, you still need to work on the private side. You still need to work on the conventional side to get some of these loans. Money's out there. You just have to be creative about finding that money.
Yeah. Okay. And then as far as how much are those leveraged right now, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing the leverages have gone up, and we're seeing about 60-65% LTVs. But people are trying to put more. And so the equity requirements are changing. So maybe people are partnering with other folks to bring that equity to the table. It's changing some of their cash on cash positions that they want to be in, but they're looking at it as a long-term hold. Hospitality is still where you can still do cost seg studies, and you can still, from a tax standpoint, it's the same as it is on the multifamily side. It's a big asset that you're purchasing, so you can still do other things you want to do in order to save on taxes and all that. So people are still doing that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've done that on your prior multifamilies as well, as far as the cost segregation. But just maybe for the audience, can you explain a little bit as to what the benefit? Obviously, as an investor, you want to be able to make money on your money, right? So how much are you going to earn on the money? But there's also some other benefits when it comes to taxes. So
absolutely. I mean, so we love cost segregation. First of all, depreciation is something that the IRS tells you that you have to take, right? Depreciation is not, is something that your CPA will be doing. So if you have any properties that are out there, investment properties, even some of the houses that some people have, but any commercial properties that people have, they're generally doing is they're accelerating that depreciation. They're taking that depreciation faster. So if you have, if you have a CPA who's looking at your multifamily deal or a hotel deal and saying, well, you have so many years where you can kind of just chop it and take a little depreciation every single year. It's a benefit. It's a tax benefit that you get where your income kind of reduces on paper, even though you've made the money. Well, what they're doing is they're pulling that depreciation faster. So instead of taking it for 37 or 39 years, they're taking it on a 5, 7, or 15-year schedule. So they're accelerating that depreciation so they can take a larger chunk on that depreciation on your taxes. And when some of these laws passed a few years ago where they also introduced bonus depreciations. So folks like you and I basically bought these properties and we accelerated the properties and took bonus depreciation. So we basically took all that depreciation in year one of acquisition. So if I bought a property last year in 2022, well, I bought a property regardless of how many millions of dollars. Well, I took the whole depreciation in year one. So you can see, Keith, how even though I'm making money on my investment, but yet when I'm depreciating these properties, I'm really showing a loss because I'm accelerating that depreciation all the way up front. And so then what we do is, as good folks, the stewards of capital for our investors, well, we take that depreciation and we pass it along to our investors. So each investor who's investing with us, whatever that amount is that they're investing in, not only are that shares protected for them, but they're also getting a negative K1. That's the reporting mechanism that we have in order to report our losses to them. So they're making money, but yet on a negative K1, they show that they have taken a negative, depreciation. So hopefully that they can take to their CPAs and accountants and see if they can apply that towards their taxable income and hopefully save some money on taxes. So I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. So absolutely, everybody has to go talk to the professionals to see if they qualify and what the needs and wants are. But that's something that has worked really well for me personally, for my family, and it's worked for lots of our investors. Matter of fact, 50% or more of our investors, they come in and invest in these properties with us because of the power of depreciation.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And this year we've got still, 80 or 85?
80% this year. Yeah. So 80, we could take up to last year, we could take 100% of the depreciation. So this year we're up to 80%, and it's going to gradually go down in terms of that bonus depreciation that we're talking about. You're still able to accelerate into 5, 7, and 15 years schedule, but to take the overall bonus depreciation up to last year it was 100%. This year is 80%. Then it'll gradually go down to 60-40.
Yeah, exactly. And I did my first one this past year, actually on a short-term rental that we bought out in North Carolina. But I had earlier in the year sold a mobile home park, and so it offset my capital gains that I would have been paying by doing that. So I loved it. It was amazing. I'm trying to do it another one here before the end of the year. So
absolutely.
And as far as the hotels go, maybe not the ground up, but if you're buying an existing asset, what are some of the things that you look at from that standpoint and say, you know what, this is undervalued, or this is we can do this and this, and the property is going to be performing quite a bit better. What do you look at from that standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big things that we look at is in regards to the submarket itself. If the comp set is doing a certain occupancy and a certain ADR, right? And then we study the hotel and the hotel is underperforming for whatever reason, right? Then we kind of study that and saying, well, money's coming in because people are moving, people are staying in those properties, which are your comp set. And if they're staying something, then really the issue is that hotel itself. That could be the physical asset itself, or it could be the management. So we kind of study that now as a next step. And so generally, a lot of times it is both. It is the lack of management more than anything else. And then also people aren't really putting money into those properties. And so they're not renovating the properties. And if they're not renovating the properties, they're getting poor reviews. And if they're getting poor reviews, most people are saying, well, I'd rather not stay here, but stay at the other property that's already renovated, therefore has really nice reviews and the management is better. And so the occupancies on those properties are much higher than on these. So that's the delta. That's what we look for in regards to value add, is that if that market has people coming in, money coming in, why isn't this property getting that money? And so for whatever that reason is, we look at that business plan on that. And that's how we market those properties to our investors. If I have a listing or if I'm buying that property for my investor, then I study that market and see, what that gap is, what the delta is. And so we can advise to our investors at that point.
Yeah, and I do quite a few Marriotts. In fact, I'll be sleeping in one tonight. But and I've always, every time I'm in there, I'm always looking and thinking, God, this is a great opportunity. And someday, I want to definitely have my hand with some of those. But
yeah, it makes sense, because I was just going to mention one last thing, and that's that with hospitality properties, you still have third-party management. So if you're buying these properties as an investment, as an investor, you can still hire a third-party management company who can manage these assets for you. So you can still asset manage it wherever else you are, just like on the multifamily side or your SDR side. You just have to hire the right management company who can manage it for you.
Okay. And who are some of the big players when it comes to property management or the hotel management?
There are a lot of players out there. You have Aimbridge is one of the biggest ones in the U.S. You have Host properties. I mean, there's a lot of different the companies that are there. What I tell people is that you have to really look at it from a standpoint of where you're buying these properties, and then study who the management companies are within that submarket that are managing these properties. They don't have to. You can still be far away and you can manage these properties. You just have to hire the right employees. But it's nice to have skin in the game. And so I like some of these management companies that not only can manage the properties, but also either they can partner with you or they can also look at some other ways of helping you making more money so your net income goes up.
No, that's great. And as far as the hotels, as far as holding long term on those, I know at least the Marriotts, the Hiltons, and I'm sure all the other franchises as well, or name brands. They typically have a requirement, right, as far as how you're going to maintain that property. So renovating it every X number of years to bring it up to speed. And what does that look like? Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So you're buying a franchise, especially when you give the example of Marriott or when I was talking about Hilton. So there's a lot of hotel companies that are out there. They're essentially giving you their flag, right? They're basically saying, we'll flag that property for you. We'll give you our name, because with the name comes reputation. With the name comes a reservation system. With the name comes maybe a loyalty program attached to it. You might be a Marriott guy, going tonight and other places because not only do you like the experience, but you also get some points. So every, so many times you stay, you can get a night and all that. Well, the same thing on the Hilton side. Maybe I like Hilton properties because it suits me as a family. When I take my family, I can go into extended stay. I can go into business class, whatever. But I do that. And so a lot of people are sort of in the similar mindset. But so when you are buying a flagged hotel and you're getting a franchise, you have to get approved. And so as a buyer, as an investor group, they will, you go through an application process. And then what they do is they give you a change of ownership PIP. A PIP is called the product improvement plan. So they give you a plan, which is your renovation plan, and they scan the property. They come in, they look at the property, and they say, well, currently this is their standard, and this hotel is not meeting the standards. So you need to do X, Y, Z, a punch list in order for you to keep that flag that we're going to give you. and they'll give you a time period associated to it. Within 6 months, within 12 months, within 24 months, you have to do XYZ to fulfill that requirements of the PIP. And so as long as you adhere to that and you agree to that, you're good for the next maybe 7 to 10 years, generally typically about 8 years. Every 7, 8 years, there's a large PIP that comes in where their brand might change, their logo might change, the way they do their inside, lobby or the breakfast area might change. You have to adhere to that. McDonald's will do the same thing, and all these other big franchises will do the same thing, where once they have a new style, a new design, the franchisees have to adhere to that. And that's how the hotel world also works.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. And it keeps it fresh, right? I just, as again, somebody who stays in a ton of them, you can tell the ones that aren't up to speed. They've got the same furniture, whether it be in, Anniston, Alabama, or, wherever. I mean, it's like the furniture's the same, the setup's the same, and the TVs are smaller on the ones that maybe haven't been renovated, and all that. So,
and all that's an opportunity, right? From a business standpoint, that's how I look at it, and my investors look at it.
Yeah. What about from a traveling? Obviously, you mentioned the increase in just the general public doing vacations, that kind of stuff. Obviously, with COVID, we were on the same kind of a do not travel for a while type deal. And then that started to loosen up. And but typically I'll be gone like 3 weeks out of the month prior to COVID, and then 1 week working from the home office. And it kind of shifted to where maybe I'd go out 1 month. It was just like, okay, if you have to travel out there, go for it. But they restricted it. What have you seen, as far as, I know we're kind of back to normal on it, but I don't know, if other companies are still kind of holding back a little bit on the business travel.
Yeah, great question, Keith. We are basically seeing stuff all over the board right now at this point. Majority of the companies are planning to come back, or they are somehow coming up with this hybrid system, as you were talking about. And that is real for people because a lot of people retired from the workforce. And so in order for people to keep those workforce, the clients don't have a choice, or the companies don't have a choice, but to offer some type of a hybrid system where I know a lot of companies that are saying, look, we know you like it, you want to stay home, but maybe come back for a couple of days. From a culture standpoint, from a community standpoint, within the office itself, and so come in for a couple of days, figure out what needs to happen, still meet with people, and then for the next 3 days they can still work, at home or however they need to do it. But the world has changed, and because the world has changed, the habits have changed. And so some companies are realizing that they have to offer that to their employees for a long time. What we're seeing in the industry, specifically in the hospitality industry, is that if you are working for a company, now, if you have the flexibility of pretty much working from home, then you can basically take that home anywhere you want. You don't have to be tied to your home itself. What if you like to travel? And if you like to travel, you can still go to Scottsdale, or you can still go to Colorado, or you can still go to wherever, to the beach, to Mexico or wherever, right? And you can basically log in from there. You can stay there. You can do the work that you need to do 4, 5, 6 hours a day that you're doing. And then once you log off, now you can enjoy. It's the leisure part that comes in, that kicks in, right? So a lot of people have been doing that because a lot of people are saying, look, I can go in and not only go for a 1 or 2 day vacation or 3 day vacation, but let me go for extended vacation and still work from there. And so extended stay hotels have come into picture. So in the last maybe 3-4 months, you've probably heard, you've seen from Marriott's to Hilton's to all the other hotel groups out there, they're launching these extended stay platforms, extended stay hotels in all different segments, from economy segment all the way to a luxury segment. And they're doing that because that's the need of the time. They're doing that because people need that. The occupancies are going up and people have that choice. And so it's a business decision that these companies are making.
Yeah, very interesting. And then look, how about, you mentioned an SDR fund. Tell me a little bit about that. Have you already launched it, or are you about to launch that one?
No, we are still working through on that. We're just about to launch our industrial fund. The SDR fund basically will house between 100 to 175 houses. These are specifically going to be in key markets in the United States where people are traveling in groups. So they're not your typical smaller houses. They're going to be houses where you can have 12, 14, 15 people in that house. A lot of business is doing the same thing, where they're not renting they're not renting hotels anymore. They're actually renting SDRs where their employees can stay, and they're providing all the amenities. This SDR fund will have these houses in it that will have all the amenities. So they typically go in and purchase a let's say a house, and then they will also make sure that maybe 2/3 or 1/3 of their budget will go in amenitizing that and putting design and furniture and fixtures and outside, putting everything that you need, from a putt-putt golf to lighting to just making it look like a resort. So when you are as a person, or you as a company are looking in a specific area where you're going to have a meeting or where you want to go vacation, you don't have a choice, but you're going to rent that house just because it has everything in it. And so these companies are deciding, they have their own internal tracking mechanisms, so they know that what people like in that market, and what works. 4 rooms aren't going to work. 6 rooms are going to work. This color shade's going to work. So they have actually, this big data is available, right? Big data is everywhere. So they've taken that and they've made a buy box for them, saying that their properties, 100 plus properties in that fund, will basically have this criteria, and they'll manage it in-house, and they will basically deliver the returns to the investors. But the idea behind there is that the business plan behind this is, and also on our industrial fund, is going to be where we're packaging multiple properties in one fund from a diversification standpoint. And the business idea is that once we have that, and we are basically providing returns to our investors, and in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to take that and package that as a fund and sell it to a Blackstone or a hedge fund or another real estate investment fund, because they don't have time to buy 1 or 2 properties. They're looking for income, and they're looking for that. And so we basically package that and sell it to a bigger fish out there.
Yeah, that's perfect. That sounds interesting. How about on the industrial? Are these warehouses? What are you looking at from an industrial standpoint?
Yeah, excellent. So what's happening right now is, if you look at our government itself, with the infrastructure bill that was just passed, there's billions of dollars of money that is going to be incentivized to companies for work in the United States. And that's going to include a lot of manufacturing. And so you're probably reading these articles, and you're seeing that this new buzzword of friendshoring is popping up in the news. So less reliant on other countries to manufacture the goods that we need stateside. And so we're seeing this friendshoring happening. A lot of that money is going to go, and investments are going to go to North Mexico, maybe some to Canada, and stay within this area here. And so manufacturing is what we are identifying. Any manufacturers that are building stuff that America needs, they're going to need money to support their growth. And so not only are they going to get money from the government, but what we're doing is, with this fund itself, we're going to this manufacturer and saying, look, you're a critical component to the economy. You need this. Let me buy the facility from you and give you a sale lease back. So lease it back to you for the next 20, 25 years, so that I, as a fund, can create income out of it. You already have the property and the facility, but now you get the money to invest in infrastructure, to invest in inventory, to invest in people, or maybe go open up another location that you need. Right? So it's self-serving. And so we're going to have 15 to 20 of these properties within that fund itself. There are going to be manufacturing facilities that are going to have leases, that are going to have corporate guarantees on top of that. And so when we package that into a fund, we just sell that to a big company out there. It's going to be a 5 to 6 year window for us to do that. We've already closed on 3 properties. We have 4 properties under contract. This fund for us is being launched here this week. And so once we launch this fund, we will basically, raise a certain capital within that fund itself. And that's what I was talking about earlier, that you have to see what the time of need is today. Right? What was working for us as Spur Equity in 2019 and 2020 may not work in 2023 and beyond, or may need to change and adapt. And we have to be nimble enough to adapt to our investing needs for us and also for our investors.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it sounds very interesting on the industrial. And I've seen that, just watched a presentation from an investor or a economist rather, just talking about how the change in the, transportation and everything to help be able to supply the different manufacturing. So a lot of that is shifting kind of to, this, going up to whether different ports that are in, kind of the south to south east of the U.S. And it's there's a lot changing. So I think that'll be a good one for you. How about, we're getting a little bit long on time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I appreciate it. We didn't quite get to everything I wanted to, but having said that, maybe if you can just tell folks how they can find out more about you, and then I've got a couple more questions for you.
Sure. Yeah. So, you can find us on our website, which is spurequity.com. And I have my contact information there, or you can reach me at my name, Rav, it's R-A-V, V as in Victor, at spurequity.com.
Okay, perfect. And, what is maybe something that if you've got one of our listeners that maybe is just starting their journey in, whether it be in real estate or maybe passively investing, what's some advice maybe you could give them?
First of all, I want to congratulate them, right, on thinking to be an investor or learning about investments, because I think it's the right frame of mind. I think that is a good mindset to have. I think passive income is amazing. I wish I got introduced to some of these things when I was first starting my career, when I was first to get in, and I'm getting to an age where, my kids are growing up. And so we're telling our kids, look, and they're hearing us. As they're growing in they're hearing us talk about some of these things, and hopefully they're catching the lingo and all that. But I think it's important for your investors to understand what they're getting into. So as I said earlier, I believe in foundation. I believe in education. So go educate yourself. Go understand different avenues of investing. But I feel like passive investments are very important, because then you can focus on doing whatever you're doing. Either it's working for a 8-to-5 full-time job, or working in your community, or having family and other things that you're wanting to do. So for me, becoming a passive investor is very important. I am passive investor into other people's deals also. But as an investor, I want to learn what I'm going to get into. And so that's the challenge that I throw to all the investors out there, is that learn how to be a passive investor, because I feel like that's a really, really important skill set to have in your life.
Yeah, for sure. How about any book recommendations? I'm always asking for my audience, but I'm also asking for myself. Anything that really has been a good one for you recently?
So yeah, recently just Keith, I read a book which is called The Lifestyle Investor. It was by I believe Justin Donald, and that book basically just talked about, and it was there's a little shift in my mind when I read that book, because it wasn't just talking about how to be a syndicator or this and that. It was basically focused on lifestyle. Like, figure out what you want in life, right? Do you want to work through all the issues and do everything yourself? Or do you want to take a little less and then have the lifestyle that's more important to you while you're investing with people? And so that book kind of gave me clarity into that. I'm a lifestyle investor myself, right? I don't want to go and buy all these properties myself. And that's why the focus on partnerships happened with us. That's why the focus on capital raising happen for us. I'm a capital raiser. I'm a fund manager. I don't want to do all the hard work. And for me, it's okay by taking a little less profit, but having lifestyle being important, having family, having community, having other things that I believe in, very important. So then I can still invest and have my investments pay for some of that. So Lifestyle Investor by Justin, I believe Justin Donalds is his name.
Yeah, Justin Donalds. Yep.
Yeah, to me, that was pretty good.
Yeah, very good book. And he's got a podcast and stuff as well. And I listen to it pretty regularly. So great. Hey, you brought a ton of value to the listeners. I've really enjoyed our time together here today and reconnecting with you. And so, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Keith.
All right. Take care.
Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.